Water of hydration is water that is chemically combined with a substance to form a hydrate and can be expelled as by heating without essentially altering the composition of the substance. Electrolytes are salts or molecules that ionize completely in solution, which means that as a result, electrolyte solutions readily conduct electricity. Non-electrolytes do not dissociate into ions in solution, which means that they do not conduct electricity. The reason that electrolyte solutions can conduct electricity is because when a salt dissolves, its dissociated ions can move freely in the solution, allowing the charge to flow. Electrolyte solutions are most often formed when a salt is placed in a solvent like water. Only compounds that are ions necessary dissociate in their component ions in a solution qualify as electrolytes. When we sweat, we lose ions necessary for our body's functions, so we are in need of replenishing them by eating more ions in the form of an electrolyte solution. Gatorade is a popular one. Electrolytes help neurons conduct electrical impulses. Non-electrolytes are compounds that do not ionize at all. This allows them not to be able to conduct electricity. Non-electrolytes are usually held together by covalent bonds than ionic bonds. Glucose is an example of a non-electrolyte.
Vapor pressure. Vapor pressure is the pressure of the vapor that is given off during evaporation of a liquid or a solid in a closed container. Water vapor varies with its temperature. As the temperature increases, so does the vapor. When a solid or liquid evaporates into a gas in a closed container, not letting the molecules escape, some of the gas molecules will strike the condensed phase and condense back into it. When the rate of the condensation becomes equal with the rate of evaporation of the substance, then the amount of gas, liquid, or solid does not change. The gas in the container is at equilibrium with the liquid and solid. The surface area of the solid or liquid that has contact with the gas does not affect the vapor pressure. The types of molecules do affect the vapor pressure, and the intermolecular forces between molecules are relatively strong, then the vapor pressure will be low, or relatively weak, then the pressure will be high. Temperature also affects the vapor pressure. At high temperatures, the molecules are able to escape more easily. At low temperatures, the molecules have a harder time escaping.
times, there's an article about a glacier that had melted in Switzerland. Having the glacier melt caused an effect on their hydropower. Quality of life. We literally drink water to live.
Polar covalent. Water is a polar covalent. Polar covalent bonding is a type of bond where there is unequally shared electrons between two atoms. It's unequal because one atom is spending more time with the electrons than the other atom. When electrons spend more time with one atom, then they start to carry a partial negative charge. The atom without the electron will have a partial positive charge. Difference between calorie and a joule. A calorie is a unit of measure of the energy required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. A joule is the unit of electrical energy. Specific heat capacity. Specific heat capacity is the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of a substance per unit of mass. The specific heat capacity of a material is a physical property. In SI units, specific heat capacity is the amount of heat in joules required to raise 1 gram of a substance. Heat of evaporation. The amount of heat required to vaporize 1 gram of a liquid at its boiling point will no change in temperature, usually expressed in J divided by G. The molar heat of vaporization is the amount of heat required to vaporize 1 mole of liquid at its boiling point with no change in temperature, and usually expressed in ion kJ/mole.
Process is where solute particles are surrounded by solvent molecules. States of matter of water include a liquid, solid, and gas. When a liquid is turned into a solid, it's called freezing. When a liquid is made into a gas, it's called condensation. When a solid turns into a liquid, it's called melting. And when a gas turns into a solid, it's called sublimation. When a solid is turned into a gas, it's called deposition. When a gas is turned into a liquid, it's called evaporation. When water is a liquid, its molecules are close together. When water is solid, they are a little more spread out. But when water is a gas, the molecules are far apart. Melting point is the temperature at which the solid and liquid phases of a substance are in equilibrium at a specified pressure. The boiling point of water is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Although it does depend on atmospheric pressure, water boils at lower temperature as you gain elevation and boils at a higher temperature if you increase atmospheric pressure. Vapor pressure is the pressure of the vapor that is given off during evaporation of a liquid or solid in a container. Water vapor varies with its temperature. As the temperature increases, so does the vapor. When a solid or liquid evaporates to a gas in a closed container, not letting the molecules escape, some of the gas molecules will strike the condensed phase and condense back into it. When the rate of condensation becomes equal with the rate of evaporation of the substance, then the amount of gas, liquid, or solid does not change. The gas in the container is at equilibrium with the liquid or solid. The surface area of the solid or liquid that has contact with the gas does not affect the vapor pressure. The types of molecules do affect the water vapor. If the intermolecular forces between molecules are relatively strong, then the vapor pressure will be low. or relatively weak, then the vapor pressure will be high. Temperature also affects vapor pressure. At high times, the molecules are able to escape more easily. At low temperature, the molecules will have a harder time escaping. Many of water's properties make it unique. Water's liquid form is more dense than its solid form. It takes more energy to heat a water than other substances. Water can act as an acid or base. Water has strong bonds. The effect is the scattering of light as a light beam passes through a colloid. The individual suspension particles scatter and reflect, making the beam visible. Continuous random movement of small particles suspended in a fluid, which arise from collisions with fluid molecules.